Hey, what's up, Liron here. Today I'm going to share with you the best primary color combination in watercolor that you can use. Now, let's define a couple of things. Best, by that I mean most flexible, the one that will allow you to mix the most colors with it. That's how I look at it. And I will show you some colors. Some three primary selections can mix just a larger variety and others cannot. That's the first thing. Now, the second thing is this comes down a lot to personal taste. Okay, so take it, everything I say, with a grain of salt. Now, let's talk about why that's the best color, and I'm going to show you what it is. It's going to be a cyan-magenta-yellow. And I base this off of the colors, cartridges in the printer. Printers typically use a cyan-magenta-yellow combination. Now, I'm not too strong on that science, of course, but that's what enables you the biggest, again, flexibility. So a cyan would be a very clean blue that doesn't have a lot of red in it, a lot of yellow in it. We won't get into this discussion of does it actually physically have those colors in it. The answer is no, but the color itself is as clean of a blue as you can. Magenta, as clean of a magenta as you can, and yellow, clean of a yellow as you can, which is probably going to be a lemon yellow. So I'm going to show you what colors I'm going to be using for this, because multiple colors can answer this category. Now, the ones I'm going to use are the Quinacridone Rose I have here by Daniel Smith. That's a PV19, so any pigment that's going to be a PV19 should work really well for this use. Not the only one, again, but this is going to be one of your best bets. And then Phthalo Blue, so this is PB15. This is 6, the red shade. Some people swear by not using the red shade, but using the blue shade or green shade, whatever it is. I think all are close enough to work. Now, the last color I have, and I'm going to show you all of these on my palette, is the lemon yellow. This is also Daniel Smith. I don't have the tube because I ran out of it and threw it into my old tube jar because I'm keeping everything there. But basically, lemon yellow right here. And then you have the Phthalo Blue right here. I know it's a little hard to see. And then you have the magenta, Quinacridone Rose here, okay, which is going to be our magenta. So let's dive into, I'm going to show you what these look like, and you're familiar with them. So this is going to be our cyan, and again, cerulean could probably work as well, but the focus is nothing like a French ultramarine or an ultramarine blue that has a lot of warmth to it, and nothing like, I would say, like indigo or all of these blues that are a little more muted, because you just won't be able to mix with them. So that's going to be our cyan. As for the magenta, the Quinacridone Rose PV19 answers that category really well. Just look at how clean it is. You may wonder, unlike Pyrrole Scarlet, this one looks so, purple or pink. Don't worry, we can get it to be red by adding a bit of yellow. That's the magic trick here. But it will allow us much more flexibility. So that's going to be our magenta, and lastly, our cleanest yellow is going to be a lemon yellow, not an Indian yellow, which I'm a big fan of. That's actually not going to be your best choice, but this rather is going to be your best choice. So lemon yellow. Now, let me explain really briefly. Let's say you want to mix something that looks kind of like a French ultramarine, okay? You can do that with these two. So you'll use your blue, cyan blue, and you'll add just a touch of magenta, and you get a slightly more warm-ish blue that answers the category, that gets closer to French ultramarine. It's not going to be perfect, but the point is you won't be able to use ultramarine to mix a phthalo. That's just not going to work. You can try. You can test me on this one. You can add as much yellow as you want, even lemon yellow. It's just not going to reach this. This vibrant and clean of a blue you will not be able to mix. So what's better, to have a primary color with which you can mix something that's similar to ultramarine, or to have a primary color with which you cannot mix something close to phthalo blue, right? Think about it this way. So now let me show you. With these colors, you should be able to produce a nice gray. So if we just get started here with a bit of blue, then we'll add a bit of warmth to it. So we should get a relatively clean purple, or violet rather. And then to that violet, if we add enough or an accurate amount of lemon yellow, we should get a really nice neutral gray. Okay, so that's a good indication that these three colors are in good balance, because we can create a relatively clean gray color from which you can add more blue, add more red, add more yellow, and create variations, right? Now, the point I made about this magenta being quite cool and really not looking like something like Pyrrole Scarlet, for example. Let's jump into our mixes here to the right. So we have this kind of a magenta, right? Let me overpower this blue with magenta. So we have this mostly, the Quinacridone Rose. Now let's make it warmer. So we're going to add a bit of lemon yellow to it. And we'll get something closer to a warmer red, right? It's not perfect, but it is better. But here's the point. If you would want to mix this magenta using a Pyrrole Scarlet, you probably can't. Again, it's not necessarily going to be perfect, but you will create a warmer red, right? Warmer red on the verge of orange. I'm actually curious to see what will happen. If we add blue, it's going to completely neutralize it, right? But the point is again, it's going to be hard to mix everything from everything. But my question is, what will give you more flexibility and more of a variety of mixes? That's going to be your best bet. It's not going to be perfect. Nothing is perfect. And this is why many people prefer to use the split primary palette. So you use both a Phthalo Blue and an Ultramarine, both a Pyrrole Scarlet and a Quinacridone Rose, both a Lemon Yellow and an Indian Yellow, or a New Gambos, right? This is why some people use both. But if you have to use three, these are going to be the better bet to mix a larger amount. Okay, now let me add one more concept to it, because I have heard from some people who are scared of this kind of a thing. What happens if you do want to use more than 3 primary colors? And you know, I always recommend only 3 or 4, 5 max. So I don't want you to take it to worry too much about, I have to just use 3. You can actually introduce a 4th, a 5th, a 6th color. It's more of a question of ratios. So if the vast majority of your painting is mixed using these 3 colors, but then for some strong punches of color you want to use, say, a bit of that Pyrrole Scarlet, you can do that. If you're just using it for smaller details, smaller whatever, you can feel free to do that. You can do it even if you don't, right? There are no hard and fast rules. But I do this very often. I'll use the Pyrrole Scarlet, as you can see here. I'll use this Joan Brilliant, which is kind of like a titanium, buff titanium, which has nothing to do with the colors I'm showing you here. I'm going to use a pale green, which is, I don't even know what pigment that is, but it looks really similar to what the color looks like on the palette. And all of these have nothing to do with these 3 colors, right? But it's a question of ratios. Is most of your painting composed of these, thus creating a nice harmony, right? And you can mix quite a lot with these. Let's go over to the green side. So let's say you want a strong green, would be mostly these 2, right? And look at how strong that is. It's almost reaching the point of being a turquoise, right? So that's that. But if you want to, let's say, neutralize it a bit, you add a bit of your magenta, and then you get a bit of a more brown, right? A bit of a more muted down green, but you can achieve a lot with just these, right? Forget about the Pyrrole Scarlet. This gives you a huge range. And then for going for the really punchy colors that are either very hard to mix, Pyrrole Scarlet will be one of those 2. You can get close to it, but it's going to be really hard to mix that. It's a very strong color. Then for those, you can actually use the pre-mixed or pre-made, tubes. Another example of this is going to be the this cobalt turquoise, or turquoise, I don't even remember, right? This, good luck trying to mix that from anything, really. For that, you kind of have to use, and you do see artists like Joseph Zbukvic using this color separate from the rest, okay? So this, just to conclude, is a great palette if you're getting started and you want to get a lot of flexibility and be able to mix a wide range. Like, I can probably mix almost anything using these, and I have experimented with this. I think I threw the paper I used to mix, but I had it filled with these kinds of mixes, and I could mix almost like 99% of the colors I encountered, because most colors, especially in nature, are not human-made. They're not as strong as, say, this orange, right? This just does not exist. For this, you'll have to use a pre-mix, like my orange here. I have a Pyrrole Red Light, which is basically a very strong orange. Maybe if I add a bit of, you see, a bit of that Pyrrole Scarlet, then I get close, right? But this is the exception. You won't see many of these, especially if you're doing landscapes, even cityscapes, because the atmosphere really influences the colors, making them just less vibrant, more neutralized. So you usually don't need this. You don't need this, right? You need everything that this produces for the most part, okay? So just a thought out there. Again, a disclaimer, I'm not big on the science optics, right? And another disclaimer, this is personal taste. This is maybe what you choose to do, maybe you won't, but just wanted to give you my 2 cents. If you really just give me a good primary combination that can mix as much mixes, this is the one. Cyan, magenta, yellow, whichever cyan you can find, whichever magenta, whichever yellow, the closest you can get to these, the better. But of course, all the disclaimers apply. So thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to check out the links in the description box for my courses, for my books, for everything else. And we'll see you in the next video.